Welcome, everyone, to the A to Z podcast. We're your hosts, Amber Long. And welcome to the podcast, everybody. Welcome to the A to Z podcast. We're your hosts, Amber Long.
And Zachary Birdsong, people.
And today we're talking about change. So here we go. Stop laughing.
So we've had an eventful 2 weeks. 'Cause 2 weeks in a row, we have tried to record this episode talking about change.
Technically, we did it.
We did
do
twice.
Or do not. There is no try.
Okay.
Yoda.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Yoda. And so we recorded twice. We did it twice. But we encountered a technical problem both times, and they were human technical problems.
They were mental technical problems.
Yeah. We're getting more and more precise here. Amber broke down in the first one. She had a moment.
Prior to.
It
was prior to the recording.
Yeah. And I had a breakdown during of the second one.
Maybe we'll put it on Patreon.
Maybe.
At the highest tier.
Maybe.
You gotta pay top dollar for Zach's sorrow.
$10,000.
Okay.
One-time payment. Lifetime fee.
Lifetime payment, which will really come in handy when he runs for office. You can exploit his weaknesses for
you'll know it all.
Low $10,000.
You'll know it all. But it was, we learned that we had to change.
That's not what we learned. That is not what we learned. So let's just start from the beginning.
Okay. Do it then.
What were we trying to talk about?
We were trying to talk about when, how to know when to change, essentially. Yeah. And that discussion, well, I guess more for me than it was for you, because like you said, for you it happened before. It was kind of, I think it had to do with kind of the topic in general.
Yeah, I was kind of confronting a change that was requested from me. And I didn't respond to it well. And part of the reason why I didn't respond to this change, and it was kind of a change that I had gotten from multiple people, too, in a short amount of time. But it's a change that I've had people request from me in the past, which is to be more expressive, especially to be more affectionate.
And that can feel combative, too.
Yes.
Even if people are, because they don't know that others are doing it, but if it feels like it's all happening in a short period of time. Yeah.
But I have this, internal rule, and don't people exploit this, okay? But I have an internal rule that if multiple people have told me something within a short amount of time, within a specific time frame, and none of these people have spoken to each other, then I know it's something that I need to pay attention to and I need to address it. And so it's something that's come up in the past. It's something that was coming up from, a couple different people in my life. And so I felt that I needed to try to be more emotionally vulnerable about happy things. Because I'm not I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face about what I'm upset about.
True.
I have no problem giving that information away to anybody. I don't care who it is. But when I'm happy, I kind of just keep that to myself. And part of the reason I do that is because I don't want it to go away. And so I have this, and some people, I don't know if this is exactly the principle of the evil eye or the idea of it, but I had seen some things about believing, not that there's a cultural whatever belief that some people have, and maybe it's across cultures, where they encourage people not to be too happy or not to be too expressive about what's going on, what's going good in their lives, for fear that it will attract, jealous people or kind of call negativity to them or something like that. And I think a little bit, I'm not saying they're being like this, but my perspective on this is a little superstitious at times. Of me being like, if I can, there's a little bit of me just like wanting to control my environment by keeping certain things very close to my heart. And so, like, if I care about someone or if I love them, I may not always tell them because I don't want them to change. I don't want them to know, so that
it can kind of put pressure on them maybe a little bit too.
Sometimes, but that tends not to be that's how I would react to it.
Right.
Like if somebody tells me how much they feel about me, then I can
start overthinking your interactions with them.
But I tend to find that other people, especially if they're the type of people who ask that from you, it's not so much that that's what would happen for them, but my fear is that once I've told them that, then they will hurt me in some way. Or if they hurt me by accident, like my brain is almost like, but you knew, so now you're hurting me even more because you knew how much I meant to you. If they make if like, let's say we grow apart or we go in a different way or they do something that really like violates my trust or something, like it's a weird, little warped kind of viewpoint. But
I guess that makes sense though, because you've kind of said before that that's your defense mechanism, right?
What?
Like if someone were to come up to you and say, hey, I care a lot about you, or you're like this to me or this to me, then your immediate reaction is, because out of fear of something, hurting that, is for you to kind of do it yourself, right?
For me to hurt me?
No, them.
No, I don't. No.
Or like remove yourself from the situation.
Yeah, I'll distance myself from
Right.
people because I'm afraid of the responsibility that I now feel for their emotions.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of it's not the same thing, but it is reflective.
It is, and that's what I find that a lot of times. It's not even that I find. I feel like this is just kind of true. How you react is how you process other people's behavior.
Yes.
It's what you think is going to happen, which is not, it's not that it's not right or fair or anything. It's totally fair. But it is just a type of projection.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, like, I think one of the biggest lessons that you can learn in your life is that we are all different. And you may come across people who react to things the way that you do, or view things the way that you do. And that's a special friend, or not, your nemesis. And that's why your nemesis is. But Nemini?
No.
Nemesis.
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 Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
No, that is right.
Oh, hell yeah.
You are right. Anemones. But anyway, but yeah, most of us are kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
We're processing things from a very different viewpoint and lens, and unfortunately, so much of how we see the world. And I do feel like this is a big part of how one can change for the better, is to not process the world through your pain and hurt, but process through your happiness and joy and expansion.
And to learn how those around you process instead of placing your nature of process on others. That's
almost like, so we just recently saw the new Avatar. And this isn't giving anything away, but like in the previous ones, there's this concept of like, I see you. And in the very first one, Norm, the scientist, is trying to explain to Jake, like, what does it mean when somebody says, I see you? And he's like, it's like, I see into you. And it's really just like, I understand what your motivations are. I understand your Like, there's just some things you have to do. That's your nature. That's your path. I'm always talking about destiny. This is a part of your destiny. And I understand that there's just certain things that you're going to have to go through because of how you're wired.
It's kind of like the way I saw it was like almost a total acceptance.
Yes,
of the person.
and therefore I accept you for who you are. Yeah, and I think that that's one of those things when you are thinking about whether or not you need to change, or if you're asking someone else to change, I think you should kind of, I don't know, think about that, I guess. Like, do I really understand this person?
Yeah, be mindful of them and your role in that relationship. And
yeah, because but not even just your role in the relationship. Take yourself out of it and be like, can I observe this person like if I were reading a book? If I were to read this person like a book, and they're a character who has certain words, certain diction, certain things that they're going to do. Their story may go over here and someone else's story may go over here, but do I understand them as a character, as a being moving through the world? Because I have this like image in my mind, which is funny. You were telling me an image that you had the other day of how you were trying to conceptualize something for yourself. Whenever I think about people and my relationship to them, a lot of times I'll imagine like if we were all like in a forest or in a jungle, and let's say you're like, we're going somewhere, wherever somewhere is, which is technically just the end of your life. We're all walking towards death. And in the process, you're going to have some people who meet up on your path, and then you're going to have some people go deviate. And it's not because they don't like you or they don't want to be. It's just because for some reason, that's where they're called to go, in this direction or that direction. So when you say like, I am different walks of life or whatever, part of seeing someone and accepting them is understanding their path. And it has nothing to do with you. You are just sometimes going to be walking in the same direction. Maybe that person's going to walk beside you or in front of you or behind you. Maybe you're going to stop on the path and you guys are going to sit there for a while and camp out. But eventually we all have to keep walking because we're trying to get somewhere. And like, if this person, their path is windy or they've got to go jump off a cliff for some reason, that's a part of their path. We're all following the programming that comes with our path. And so if they may have to learn to swim and you may have to learn to fly, and that's just all a part of, we're all doing that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It makes it easier for me when I think about things like that, not to take things personally.
Yeah, I think that does help. My mind immediately went to, because the reason I was thinking like in terms of your relationship with them too is because if someone starts walking, because sometimes your paths may align such that you're walking that same path side by side together. And depending on how each one of you are treating that path, you can make it worse or better for the other person as well. So I think there is an importance in like the high, overview of like seeing all these paths and understanding that everyone's just got their own paths and sometimes they intermingle but they could deviate at any time. But also knowing that there's when you kind of get down to the specifics of it too, just understanding that you got to be wary of how you're interacting as well. Yeah. And your influence on the path that you're sharing together.
Yeah, because sometimes you may be imposing a change on somebody that's not good for them or good for you.
Or like using influence or some level of power to keep them on your path too, and from doing their own path.
Following their own program,
Yep.
If you want to use computer terms, if you want to think about God, if you want to think about destiny, if you want to just think about your will, individual will.
It's all the same.
It's all the same. And so yeah, and ultimately I was emotional about it because it was outside of my norm and it was something that I had to think about trying to change, and there were some things in myself that I had to resolve. Basically, I had to get over the fear of being hurt and embrace being vulnerable with people who care about you and who want to treat you well, and allowing yourself to be treated well by it. And you know, sometimes that's not always true. Sometimes the people want you to do that, and they have no intention of treating you well. And that's why it's scary.
Yeah.
Because you have to know the difference. And so...
And you don't always do.
And you don't always do. And so that's why I didn't respond to it very well, because I was afraid. And I was angry that's what was being asked of me. I was angry at myself because that's not my nature.
Because it's a big change for you, and just for so many people to mention that's a lot of stress initially that can be placed on you.
Yeah, and it just made me feel like there's a part of you that's like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be like that already? And feeling a little bit inadequate because it's not how I am. But also, like, I did a lot of talking to myself. I'm like, there's 8 billion people in the world. We can't all be, okay, lovey-dovey. And then I told myself, like, I'm willing to do this for certain people, and it's something that I need, right? I tell myself I don't need it, but I do. Everybody does. Just in varying degrees, different amounts of it. But it's something I want to be open to, because I hope to be a mom one day, and children need that for proper development.
Yes.
They need it. And so that's something I even went through with my dog. I was like, this is a little baby puppy. Like, he needs this. He's a mammal. He needs this. So I'm going to work on it. And so, like, but in the process of accepting, like, okay, this is how I want to change, I see it as valuable to me to change, which is why I started working on it. In the process, I was like, but there's also nothing wrong with how you are now. You're this way for a reason. It's okay for you to be like this. We can't all be everything. This is just not how I normally am. But I show up for people, and especially in dark times, give or take. I'm not perfect, but I try to. And I really try to understand people. That's what we were talking about before. I think that's probably my biggest quality, is I will at least try to understand. I will make the effort to know. And once I know forever. And so I'm like, versus there's some people who are mad affectionate. They're like, I love you, oh my God. And they couldn't give 2 rats poops about if you died.
No.
If you just disappeared tomorrow. Meanwhile, there's still some people I think about who I knew in preschool. And I'm like, I wonder where they are now. Because I care.
Yeah, with genuine care. Yeah.
With genuine care, I still reach out to people. There's one person, he's probably like, she's so weird. Ever since I knew him, since we were 11 years old, I tell him happy birthday every year on his birthday. I haven't seen this person since I was 17.
That's nice, though.
So
it shows dedication. It shows care.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. So I'm like, I told myself that. I was like, this is what you're adding on to who you are. But you're already good enough. So you can change if you want to change. And that's the biggest piece of advice my dad, like, one really good piece of advice my dad gave me is change if you want to change.
Well, and that goes along with the path stuff, too, because if you decided that you didn't want to change, then you would just keep walking down that path. They would keep walking down theirs. And if it just didn't work out or whatever,
right,
then that's how the paths diverge,
Yeah.
If you decide that you do want to change a little bit, and it could turn out that even that level of change isn't enough for some of those people. And so then they just got to go on and do them, and you just keep going on and doing you. But
and at least you tried.
Right. And that's what you can tell yourself, too.
That is
in
what
all
I
earnest.
tell myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, at least I tried. So, yeah. What about you?
I think for me it was because my main attempt to change recently has been on trying not to place the need for receiving value from everything or I guess maybe being more open in how I receive value from other people and things. Because I think that I've been a bit too, like, because I wouldn't care at all about somebody who I, went to elementary with, and if I had told them happy birthday a few years in a row, like I wouldn't keep doing that or anything. Not to say that I should, but that's just an example. Because like you brought it up earlier, but the metaphor that I was kind of talking about, was it earlier this week or was it last week?
Earlier this week.
It's
like 2 days ago.
Was and it's interesting you said forest too, because mine was also in like from forest to a field.
I thought you said, yeah. I was like, I think you said.
Well, because you're going through this forest, but then you open it up to this field, and it could either be, well, I'll just go one way first, and I was just thinking about, if I was traveling, and it's been a while since I've just seen anybody, right? Or anyone, maybe I haven't seen any other living thing in all my life, or maybe I have, but I'm traversing through this forest, and I come out to like an open field, and there's this person who's just sitting there, right? And maybe they're sleeping, maybe they're meditating, but for whatever reason, they don't interact with me, or they don't respond to me when maybe I try to say hello or ask them some questions or whatever. And so what I was trying to ask myself there is what is being shared in that moment, right? And it took me a little bit to kind of come to this understanding that there doesn't need to be any interaction necessarily for a moment to be shared and for it to be, something of value, because at the end of the day, that other person, they have their own independent perception and consciousness of what was happening in that moment. And maybe they were aware, that I was there, and they just wanted to keep, maybe their path, right, was just to keep on meditating or trying to go to sleep. They were just really tired. And so they just didn't feel like, responding or interacting with me. But I can pay attention to more of the subtleties, right? And so some of the things that came to mind was, like where in this field did they choose to sit or lay, right? How are they breathing, just kind of small things like that you can use that isn't necessarily giving you more insight or understanding into who they are, but it's letting you know that there is another conscious being here who's experiencing something, and you are in that moment with them, and that can be, that innately I think is enough. And but that's just kind of been a hard thing for me to wrap my head around, I guess. But also, I think the thing that really got me that you said last week was talking about how maybe some of these things that I'm trying to do that I have issues with being proactive in, like whether it's, trying to do some meditation or trying to do some music more or, whatever it is, that maybe it's because I don't actually like those things. And then I was like, well, man, I got to start all over now because I don't even know then necessarily what I like if it's these things. And I was thinking about the outcome and value of those, right? And so that's why I was also trying to think about how can I not be so focused on that outcome and that type of value, but then I came to the realization maybe a little bit that I think I do want to do those things. There's just another kind of problem there that I need to fix, which is mainly, I think, going back into where I'm deriving value and importance from and how I'm placing that, and needing to kind of reevaluate that a little bit more so that, as you kind of said earlier today, I'm more okay with the process and that I like the process more than I do the outcome. So I'm not playing as much or placing as much emphasis later on where it takes a lot of work to get there. And so I'm not putting in the work because I'm not letting myself enjoy it and feel fulfilled. So I think that's kind of what I'm trying to work on right now the most, is learning that difference in perception, which is it's been very hard.
Yeah, which is not, in my saying it, it's not, first of all, I don't think it's easy. Second of all, that's also not my nature. That's a big wall to climb over. And it was for me. Like, I feel like that kind of trying to address that area of my life up until recently, I feel like and that's why I'm saying it with confidence to you, though, is that
it's possible.
It's possible,
yeah, right.
And it has helped, and I do believe that is the issue. Because my goals were always too high; they were too lofty,
right?
And I was so outcome driven, instead of focusing on like. And that's what we're talking. We're talking a little bit about too, like noticing, because when I was thinking about the change that I had to make to become more affectionate, it's not that I wasn't affectionate. I would have moments of deep affection for people in my mind, or at various moments. So it really just was a matter of opening my mouth when it was happening, telling people when it comes up, or not being afraid to let this person know, let this person see me smile because they're making me happy.
And I think,
so
I think
it's
that's
like
the insight part of like the of change.
Mm-hmm.
You need insight for change. I don't think you can.
What do you mean?
If it's so if you're trying to consciously change, because I think that there are some subconscious changes you can make that don't really require insight, because they're just happening by virtue of like your context or environment changing around you. So you're just trying to match those changes.
Right.
But if you're consciously trying to change yourself, you need to have a goal or an idea of what you're trying to change in mind, and in order, and that's the insight that you need. You need insight into yourself or into whatever it is that you're trying to differ from, so that you know what new direction you're walking in.
Yeah, that's funny. I was listening to a podcast because there's also, this is something I know very well about myself, is that I could tend to be a very negative person. And so that's also something I've been working on, is to try to be like more positive, more glass half full. And which, if anybody has really had a conversation with me about that, I can be real combative about my right to be negative.
You can.
And I still stand by that. But for the interest of trying to, I recognize the value of this thing now. I didn't before. And that's part of the insight, I think, is like, you have to kind of see this as valuable, whatever the change is.
Yes.
In order to want to do it.
Because you can understand it, but and maybe that's like the second, because insight, I think, kind of, I don't know if it means that you're able to take it and adopt it, or if it's just about having the knowledge. But I think that's kind of the part two then, is there's the knowledge of it, and then there's the believing it, right?
Yeah.
And only then, and then that's where like experimentation kind of starts, because you're not really going to get it right the first, however many times
you're
around.
Trying to figure out how to do it in a way that feels right to you, comfortable to you.
Which is interesting, because it's always going to feel uncomfortable at first, because it's not going to feel like you. Because it's something, especially, if you're not accustomed to showing people affection, then you're going to it's going to be uncomfortable when you're first starting to peek out and try to tell that to people. It's still not going to feel like you at first. I think there's like kind of a tipping point where you start doing something often enough, and as you practice it more, that now that is your new baseline. You've upped it up at least like 1 or 2 level points, and now you feel comfortable with that, and you're like, okay, this is this feels good.
The funny thing about that baseline point, because in the video I was talking about, they were talking about how to expand your well, I was listening to 2 podcasts, and one of them, I think it was the Mel Robbins one. Yes.
Robbins' son.
Mel Robinson?
I think so. No, it's Robbins. You're right. I'm sorry.
Okay. And So in this one about how to be more positive, which I only like taking advice from people who on positivity about from people who were once negative. If you're a happy-go-lucky, don't come over here.
Sorry.
Telling me stuff because you're not helpful. You're not.
Well, yeah, because you haven't went through that process.
Yes, but you can explain to me the value of the thing. Perhaps I don't know. But Mel Robbins was talking about how she used to not be a very positive person, just always kind of assuming things were going to go wrong, a loud inner critic that was mean, all of these different things. And she gave an exercise that we did. And the exercise that she gave was, and this exercise was intended to up your threshold for positivity by helping you notice things. So it was teaching you to change basically your brain's filter. You're capable of being more positive, but part of being more positive is just noticing and appreciating more positivity. And so the activity was find a heart in your environment. And so she was like, scan, you can be outside or wherever you are, scan around and look for something that's shaped like a heart. And she was like, yeah, I know it sounds stupid and it's going to feel stupid while you're doing it. But there's some people who have done it so much that every single day they send her a picture of a heart. She said, like her kids and stuff, because it's just like a glimmer.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite of a trigger, is a glimmer. And so it's like scanning your environment, try to find that shape. And so I did it in my office. I was like, I'm not going to find anything in here. And then I turned around and this plant that I look at all the time, but don't really ever notice is a fake plant, had leaves that were shaped like a heart.
Yeah, just about every one.
Yeah, and I saw the first one, and then I looked at them, and Zach had the exact same reaction. He was like, there's so many. And I was like, yeah, that's what I said. And then the funny thing about that was as I was moving and trying to look elsewhere, there were shapes that were almost like a heart.
The scissors.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There was like the little 4-leaf clover on like this costume trophy I had won one year. And it was like you almost start looking at these things and you wish you want them to be hearts, so you count them. And it was like, I thought that was so, I found it so amusing to be like, positivity is that. There's some things that are just positive because they're straight up what you're looking for. And then there are other things that are good enough.
Yeah, close enough to
and you will take it and you will count it. And I thought that was the coolest freaking thing.
Yeah.
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 So change takes practice.
Mm-hmm. It's like having a box of honeycombs at home, and you wanted Honey Nut Cheerios, and you forgot that you got the honeycombs, but you see the honeycombs instead, and you're like, close enough.
Honey.
It's got honey in the name.
Honey, circles, milk, yellow, yes. Good enough.
Good enough.
So
when you're flowing from one step to the next in change.
Sequentially.
Yes. I was trying to think about how that lines up, and that's where the insight was coming from, is that you kind of need that. That's and maybe you can have experience come first. Maybe there's like something that you experience or a conversation that you have, which is still an experience, that results in insight, right?
Insight is awareness or
insight,
knowledge?
Insight, I would say, is the knowledge or understanding of kind of how you or others or a thing is functioning, right?
So the current state of things.
Yes. So you could just start off with insight. Maybe you've just been thinking about something recently and you realize, this is how I function, right? And so then the next step is starting to experiment with that, right?
For the purpose of change.
Yes, right. And see what works, what doesn't. And that leads to new experiences, which could lead to more insight, right? Maybe your first initial insight was incorrect, or maybe there was a portion of it that wasn't fully being met that you learned about. So then you're able to incorporate that into your experiments and you get closer and closer and closer. So it's this really kind of slow thing over time. And maybe you even realize that everything you were experimenting with at first was just incorrect or wasn't being done in the right way. And so I think it's important to just kind of hit on this concept of change being a slow thing that never necessarily stops. Maybe you want to change over something really specific, and that portion of change stops. And maybe you're okay, or you like how you are overall, and you don't have any kind of conscious change that you're trying to do. But there's still subconscious things that require you to change throughout your life as you navigate it. But from the minute you're born to the minute that you perish and expire from this world, you are changing in some way, and you go through so many different variations of yourself. And please don't get stuck in the insight phase either. You have to go out and experiment and act. You can't just be thinking over and over about, what it is about you, right? Don't keep asking that question, because you can get trapped in a cycle. You can rediscover things 10 times, and you pretend that it's new, and it's not. You knew it already. So just get the heck out there. Get the heck out there and really see what works and see what doesn't for you, right? Because you could listen to other people talk about what works for them and what doesn't work for them all day long, and you could glean actual insights from their experiences too, but you're never going to know if it works in that exact way for you or not unless you just start doing it. And even if you think something's working, but you feel like maybe there's a little thing that could be missing, it's okay to deviate a little bit to try to find that out. See if it gets worse, see if it gets better, but just go out there and experiment. Well, that was another episode, everyone, of the A to Z podcast. Thanks again for listening in. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Tell us about some of your recent insights in the comments below. Let us know where you're getting stuck at, and what kind of experiments or attempts have worked for you in learning how to change. Thank you, everyone, and farewell.